Hi, this is Emily Mirabelli. We are filming our second attempt at an interview style show here for Public Emily. So I just want to Bob told me to pull some tracks like that to say what we're doing. Anyways, here we are, Public Emily. I'd like to introduce our guest today, Mariann.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you. This is going to be so fun to have an interview with you. And of course, I'm here with my sidekick, Billy.
Side.
Hi, and we're filming this today. So I want to just briefly introduce the show here. So Public Emily is going to be a science and information show. I'm going to try to slowly introduce some interview styles into this and see how this goes for our submission. So I'll go over the content with you like before I send it to LA. So, okay, cool. So Mariann, hi, who are you?
So my name's Mariann Asanuma, and I am the world's first female freelance Lego artist. I was also the first American woman to be hired in the model shop at Legoland, California, and I've been building Lego models professionally for about 16 years now.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, I mean, obviously it begs the question of, you know, how did you get into Legos? But I mean, I want to know so much more about you. What were you like when you were a little girl?
Well, Lego has always been in my life, pretty much. I got it, like, my first set when I was about 6 years old. And from very beginning of when I had it, now, not that I didn't have other toys, but I honestly, every Christmas, every birthday, I wanted Lego sets. And I'm kind of the odd girl out because I'm more of a tomboy, or was when I was a kid. And so Lego really appealed to me, even though they actually kind of advertised a lot more to boys when I was a kid, more than they do now, because now with the Friends line, they appeal to both. But yeah, I pretty much liked all Lego, but I really liked castles and city theme when I was a kid, and I loved building my own houses. In fact, one of my favorite things was miniatures, and that's why I loved Lego, because I love to make miniature houses, real ones, but I kind of came to this realization pretty young that I was like, wait, if you build a regular miniature house out of wood and you put the furniture in and you decorate it or whatever, you finish it and then you pretty much can't do anything else with it. You can only build it. And then that's it. And then, I mean, yeah, you can, play with the dolls in the house or whatever, but I wasn't interested in the playing with the dolls in the house as much. I wanted to build. And so when I realized with Lego I could build a house and then furnish it, decorate it, play with it a little bit. But then when I got bored, I could take it apart and make something else. And I made a lot of houses. In fact, I didn't realize what I was doing at the time was actually top view architectural model versions of houses.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Versus when you see a dollhouse, it's usually, from the side. And so it has the two stories and, have the furniture and everything.
It's like a 3D printer view then.
Kind of, yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't even think of it like that. That was a great,
I honestly didn't realize what I was doing at the time. But when I got older and I actually learned how to read blueprints and everything, I was like, whoa, I was
I envy
ahead of my time.
I envy you. Got to live your childhood dream.
I did, but it's not like I didn't just magically fall into my dream, because people always assume that. They're like, well, you got to have one of your dream jobs, because it is literally been one of my dream jobs since I was very little, to be a master model builder. And I was like, in fact, I found out it was a real job because of the Lego Kids magazine that they have, and it had an article about Lego master model builders, and I was like, that's the dream. That's the job I want. It's not the only dream job, but it was one of the top ones of mine ever since I was a kid. But when I was a kid, they didn't have any Legolands in America.
Right. They were all in Denmark,
right? There was one
Jutland?
in Denmark, and there was one in Billund, and there's one in Windsor, England.
In Billund? Where's that?
Billund, Denmark.
Oh, in Denmark.
Because Lego is... the home of it is in Denmark,
which I have been to, but I went there way before I knew you, and I took a bus and I'm pretty sure a boat to get to Jutland because there wasn't
I've unfortunately not been to Denmark yet.
Oh, we have to go.
Was it a Lego boat?
No, it was just like a regular people mover boat.
Oh, a people boat. Okay.
But Lego is one of the major, companies in Denmark, because it's not a very big country, for one thing.
Does Lego mean something?
And there's a lot of kids out there.
Yes, Lego does mean something. It actually is leg godt in Danish, which means play well. But then, interestingly enough, they found out later that in Latin, it also means to put together. That was not the original like plan of that, but they just found out that that was the meaning. So it does actually mean something. And the funny thing is, I've not been to Denmark, but I do have models on display in Denmark and in England.
Wow.
So, because the neat thing is when you make some models in one Legoland park, sometimes they copy them and put them in other parks, or sometimes they're made in one park and then shipped to another park. So I have both kind, where something was shipped over to Denmark. I also have things were replicated and put in Denmark and in England.
I have a feeling that in Denmark, they respect Lego. They're not going to be like these junior high school kids who go try to spray paint it and stuff when it's in the park.
Yes and no. I mean, but it's like, just like everywhere. But at the same time, I found that from what I've understand and all the European friends I have, that it seems like they have more respectful children in general.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because like in Legoland, California, one of the biggest problems is that kids walk over it's only about a foot high barrier to go to the little miniature cities that are in the park. And unfortunately, sometimes like a 4 or 5-year-old will walk into the park and into the cities and they'll knock things over. So they're like a giant Godzilla character almost.
Yeah.
Now,
they should have little cameras there so they could make movies.
We did actually have to go in all the time to fix issues that kids had knocked things over, or we also would go in to add new additions or take things out if they needed to be repaired or whatever. So I've, walked in Miniland many, many times. It's the only time I actually feel tall since I'm so short. But yeah, it was really cool. So when I was a kid, I didn't realize, I said I wanted to do it. In fact, I remember telling one of my teachers that I wanted to be a master model builder. And she actually looked me right in the eyes and she's like, well, that's nice, dear, but you have to get a real job. And I'm kind of one of those people that are like, watch me or hold my beer. Not that I drink, but it's like, I'm like, I'm kind of so stubborn that I'm like, if that's, almost a challenge to me to see if I can do it. But of course, I still didn't actually know how I was going to do it. And I don't have like an actual college background in art, but I have a self-taught background in art. So I've been doing quilting and cross-stitch and illustrations and painting and about every other type of arts and crafts you can think of my entire life. And so not just my specialty in Lego itself, but in a lot of other forms, because like with quilting, I was actually a quilt teacher before I worked at Legoland.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I've done a lot of different things over the years. But yeah, with Lego, I basically started when I was 6 and I never stopped. So I've been playing with them for over 30 years now.
That was what I was going to ask is how old are you?
I'm actually 42.
Okay.
Or 41, sorry. I'm
Awesome.
almost 42.
Oh, next year you'll be the answer to life, universe, and everything.
Yes, this year actually.
Wait, 43 is the answer to
42.
life?
42 is the answer to
It
everything.
is?
Yes.
Wait, why is that? Is that like a Star Trek reference? That
It's
sort of.
you knew?
It's
Yeah.
not Star Trek. It's
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Again, this is where I said
boy.
my random pop culture knowledge comes
This
into
is
play.
awesome. Well, Bill knows. I often say that Bill, you have to be over 65 to get his jokes, but Greg, who's recording this show right now, gets his jokes, and I don't think Greg's 65.
I think it's
Greg's-
more that
Greg
you
is
have
16.
to know.
Are you actually 16 or 65?
Well, I don't know if Greg can cut in.
I don't know if Greg's there.
Oh, well. Oh, he's here. He got his hand there. I saw a hand. Yeah. By the way, Mariann, you said this is one of the first interviews you've done?
No, my first podcast, like
first
in
podcast.
studio.
But you are great,
Yeah,
though. You
you
can
have-
really just
Well, I've
talk
done,
about-
like I said, I have done a lot of interviews, just not in a studio format.
well,
like
okay.
Well, this is awesome. So I wanted to, I made a couple points
Thank
so far along here that I'd like to, I think very much, I really love the fact that you've addressed dreams becoming a reality. And I would like to say really quick, I met Mariann at Disneyland.
Yes.
I joined a social media group called Disneyland Single Writers. And that's not for singles who wanted to get together and court relationships.
Yeah.
It's for real hardcore
By the way,
fans.
that's single riders, not writers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
single
okay.
writers.
Writers,
That's
okay.
RID.
Yeah.
Anyways, and we met, and I'm really grateful to have met you, and I can't believe that you're in Salt Lake, but more than ever, I'm absolutely enthralled with the fact that you have discussed, making dreams a reality. So since the time that I was a little girl, I would have these elaborate tea parties, and I was very much a fantasy land girl. Like that's where the epicenter of my memories were made with my father. And so I would host these elaborate tea parties, and I realized as I got older, I could host real parties, which were totally awesome. And so together, Bill and I have hosted a lot of events. We like to have fireworks shows. I love to network. I love to get to know people. But more than anything, I think for our viewers today, I think a great statement here, because Bill's a dreamer too. Bill has,
I'm here illegally.
Yep. Oh, I didn't mean the... Oh my gosh, Bill. Anyways, but I think it's
Don't tell anybody.
Bill's been tearing things apart since the time he was a kid, and probably I remember some of your distinctive stories about your childhood and probably how they came to apply in your adult life. Bill, how could you tell us an example of a story that you had? Maybe tearing apart the pinball machine and lighting things on fire?
I tore apart the pinball machine and lit things on fire. I was a bad boy. It was just a little pinball machine, though, and I couldn't get it back together again, just like Humpty Dumpty. So
were you a kid or were you an adult?
Oh, no, I was. I thought I was an adult. Let's put it that way. Incidentally, whose baby is this now?
Okay, well, should we turn it around so that
Mariann brought a couple models. Yeah. Anyways, I was getting off track here. So I think I'd love in some of this interview today to talk about how you made this dream a reality.
Well, that's where I said it's not like it just magically happened. Also, this is another one I'm just going to put up so you can see, but it's kind of fragile, so I'm going to put it up for a minute and then I'll put it back down. So the reason I got this job and actually made it a reality is I applied 5 times over 2.5 years at Legoland to get the master model builder job, and I didn't get it. So people are like, oh, you just magically got this. No, it was a lot of work. One thing was I did have a portfolio, and that's essential, is having a portfolio in an artistic kind of career is completely essential so you can show what your background is. In fact, I have a really cool portfolio now with all my Lego art on Flickr. But back then, I didn't have quite as many cool sculptures on there as I do now. Back then, though, I applied 5 times, did not get the job. So I was like, maybe I'm just destined not to get this job. Well, then I went one more time on basically a whim to a spring break job hiring fair at Legoland, California. And it wasn't for the master builder job. It was for retail. And I was like, it's spring break. It's 2 weeks. Why not? Well, I got hired because I already had a background in retail. I also had actually worked just very briefly for Lego as a retail merchandiser. And those are the people that go to Target and Walmart and they set the shelves up and they add the advertising and that stuff to the shelves. So I'd actually worked for Lego just once
you don't have to assemble anything there because I've seen at Walmart, I've seen big
it's
Lego
like when
things.
They put in the little displays or they put up the new advertising for the new themes or whatever.
Or in the windows, displays.
Yeah, the window displays, that kind of stuff.
When you're walking onto Main Street Disney and you see all the kiosks and so you did the staging of the art in there.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But it was really just simple stuff. So that was at Lego, for Lego, the company, not Legoland.
Oh, okay, Lego, the company, okay.
They are actually separate companies now, but when I got hired at Legoland, finally, in the retail department, in 2002, I believe now.
Now, is that essentially a gift shop for in Legoland?
Yeah, okay. So, if you go to Disneyland or Legoland or any theme park, they always have gift shops. Yeah. And so at Legoland, the front shop is called The Big Shop. And it's basically the biggest retail store in the park, and they have the biggest selection of the sets and everything like that. So within the 2 weeks that I was working there, I got known as the Lego Lady because I actually knew more about the product than the rest of the retail department combined.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's because when I say I've been playing with Lego for 30-plus years, it's not just playing, but I've also been inadvertently studying and memorizing practically everything about the company, including the themes, the colors, the parts, what parts come in what sets, when they were available, when they stopped being made, just random kind of useless information until I worked for Lego. Because nowadays you can go on, online. There's like Brickset and there's like Bricklink. There's different websites that actually have this database online. I had it in my head before they were online.
Did you invent those databases?
No, I didn't. They're completely separate.
Bricklink though, and
Bricklink
Brickset?
is actually it's actually one of the best websites. It's not just a database. It's actually a secondary markets website, kind of like Amazon or eBay, except that it is just for Lego.
Are they Lego
gosh.
brand Legos?
Yes.
Are there knockoff Legos? That's a question I wanted to ask.
There are a lot of knockoff Legos,
Okay.
actually.
The internet is so advanced.
Yeah.
They even have a Bricklink.
So the thing about and I actually know I don't know the original creator because unfortunately he passed away about, I can't remember, a few years ago, but I do know his mother, and she's a very sweet lady, and she ended up selling the company about a year or so after he passed because she wasn't really
The original Lego company or the
no,
or
the Bricklink company.
Oh, Bricklink company. Okay, yeah.
And so I actually know the new owner as well, and I know the people that run Bricklink.
And that's in the U.S.? That company's based here?
Actually, yes. It's in California, actually,
Okay.
in Southern California. But the owner is from Korea. So he actually commutes back and forth between the two. Because not only is he a big Lego fan, but he also is a video game designer and developer. And so he's kind of a big deal, actually, in Korea.
Anyway, you tried out 6 times for it?
I tried 6 times to be a master model builder. And one of the things I found out after the fact was one of the reasons I didn't get picked was because I sounded too much like a fan, which sounds weird.
I was
get you.
literally,
I know what you
I
mean.
was
Yeah,
literally
okay.
thinking the whole time that you were speaking. I was like, I feel like you're Lego's #1 fan.
Yeah, I'm not, though.
Like if I get in there, I'm going to steal everything.
Right, and that's actually one of the reasons why they don't want to hire fans, because they're afraid they're going to steal something or not do what they want them to do. Because, I mean, the thing about working as a master model builder, where you're actually building the models for the park, is that you have to do what they want you to do on a budget and on a time frame. It's an actual job.
Professional, yeah.
Right. So, I found out after the fact that I sounded too much like a fan when I tried the first 6 times.
Were those physical interviews, or was this all done on paper
It was
submission
mostly
through the
just
internet?
paper. This was before internet submissions, so it was all like a drop-off or mail-in kind of thing.
Oh.
I didn't live that far away, too. That's the thing. I lived about half an hour from Legoland, California, before when I lived in California. I moved here about 1.5 years ago, almost now. But anyways, so after I worked there, though, when I got hired in the retail department, I worked there for a few months. As I was working in the department, though, because I had my eye on working in the model shop, not staying in the retail department. And so I networked everybody I could. And even to this day, and I've been gone from the company like 12 years almost now, I still have friends that work for the company because of that, that work at Legoland. Because I networked so much that I still know people that work pretty high up in the company. Because, I mean, it's not that big of a company, really, and the people who actually run the company. Of Legoland California itself. And so, anyways, I networked enough that I found out there was a job opening in January of 2003 for a model gluer, which is actually the lowest tier in the model shop, where you're basically copying other people's designs.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we called it the mail room.
Yeah, kind of.
Wait, why did you call it the mailroom?
Well, that's the classic thing is that's where people start up working their way up the company president.
It's kind of this, but actually retail is really one of the most bottom rung positions at Legoland. Just like also working grounds or rides, pretty much, which I never did either of those. But because of being a model builder, I did actually get to walk on the ride sometimes and repair some of the models, which is kind of interesting when you actually can turn off a ride and then walk into it. It's very kind of cool.
I have a question.
Creepy.
What type of glue did you use?
Well, I won't say the actual name, even though you can Google it, but it's a solvent that actually it's a chemical solvent that melts the plastic.
I wondered if these were, in a way, if the plastic was kind of melted, bonded. I don't know the right language here, but
these actually, the ones that I brought with me, are not glued at all.
But is this going to stay together forever?
Well, I'm going to leave it together, because I've had it for about 5 years now, and it's like I said, I'm actually going to eventually make a copy for my friend who's the son. So the boy's name is Colby, and he's my friend Tiffany Thompson's son. And I've known her before he was even born. And so when I saw the when I saw the picture, I was actually at that moment I was trying to figure out if I could make a portrait that size. And see, most people when they do mosaic portraits, they do kind of like what you see this NASA one is, where it's all pixelated.
That one's
now,
awesome.
even the NASA one though is not like the traditional pixelated one, because usually it just looks like a pixelated picture. Because anybody with Photoshop can do a mosaic pixelated. It's really simple because it's like paint by numbers. But with my mosaics, it's actually a technique I learned at Legoland, but then I've pushed to the boundaries so far that I actually, not to sound too prideful, but I'm probably one of the best mosaic builders in the world because I keep pushing the boundaries.
I mean, this looks like it came straight out of what is the name of that place? Herculaneum or Pompeii? You know, the mosaics they had there. You've been there.
Yes,
That's
of
the thing.
course.
I've
Oh my
always
God,
been-
it just came together in my brain that this is like this is tile mosaic of the Lego world.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. In fact, I didn't realize that I've just kind of always been obsessed with mosaics to a point. But the weird thing is when I finally did get my job at Legoland as a master builder, so when I walked into the studio or to the model shop the first day, my coworker was working on a mosaic of Jay Leno because they had some kind of partnership with him and they were going to present it to him on his TV show. This, of course, when it was still going.
They're going to need a lot of bricks for his chin, though.
Yeah, so it was about a 2-foot tall mosaic, and I do make bigger mosaics than this, but that one was. What was funny about it was it didn't have. If you notice, my mosaic has a lot of pieces sideways, and there's some triangular pieces in there, and there's a lot of things going on.
Do you have to cut those Legos?
No.
Do you have a special Lego bandsaw?
Triangular Legos? What universe are you from? That sounds like another dimensional invasion or something.
No, they're actually called slope pieces. In fact, the ones that I use in there is cheese slopes, and then
is that little white diagonal piece here? Is that a Lego, like a Lego that's diagonal?
Yeah, that's actually called a cheese slope in the Lego world.
Now, by the way, you painted the front surfaces of these all one color. Each Lego got one color. Or
These are all.
She has
the actual
two and a half.
regular Lego.
What is it? 200 and
No.
2.5 million pieces.
No,
at your house?
500,000 pieces.
500,000.
And then, of course, depending on the project that I'm working on, I buy thousands to tens of thousands of Lego more.
So, Bill, I think that's the brilliance here that we should point out to our viewers as well, that these are individual Legos.
Oh, yeah.
And so they come as white, blue, green, whatever. And then I have a question. Did you, so this isn't worked up on a computer ever. This is just extracted from your head?
No, well, so it's yes and no. So I do use a couple programs because I use Photoshop to get the color values. And I also there's a program that a friend of mine designed called Brickzaic. And I use the dithering on that program to get to the nearest Lego
what does
color.
brithering mean?
Dithering?
Oh, dithering.
Yeah, so it's a program. It's a computer term to make the colors be
Did
the
you
right
know
way.
what that word was, Bill?
Yeah. We use dithering in electronics too to average out or to prevent signals from being too digitized. To smooth in between
So
them.
this word
dithering
means to prevent something.
Well, no, it's like
Bridging a gap between two different digital levels.
right, because
Dithering.
in the real world, if you take a picture, there's like a million colors, right? Because the skin on your face has like, a million different color versions of tan or pink or red or whatever to get the colors. And that's why when I say when you put it in Photoshop, it just does that for you. Problem is that sometimes when you do it in a pixelated like that, you'll get these weird one-off colors of pink or purple in weird places because the computer can't process what color it is. So what I do is I kind of eliminate that process by taking the colors that I don't want in the picture out. So I won't allow a pink or a red or a blue in there that if it's not supposed to be in the picture at all. And that's why this one looks so much cleaner than if like I said, if you mosaic or if you look up Lego mosaics, most of them you have to stand about 30 feet away to tell what the picture is. Whereas on this one, you can stand right next to it and you know exactly what's going on. Same thing with my NASA one. And the NASA one is actually even really cooler in one sense. This was actually made for the movie Hidden Figures.
Oh my gosh.
So I was hired by 20th Century Fox to make the movie poster out of Lego. And crazy thing was they called me, I was in Utah at the time because my brother lives down south and he was getting married, but I was still living in California. They called me and they wanted it, like they called me on Monday and they wanted it on Friday.
Oh my gosh.
Did they take a picture of this then with high resolution and shadowing and things and use that as the poster?
So you can't, this is just part of the poster because
okay.
if you've seen the real poster, which I
can pull up here.
Pull up on my thing, the picture of the poster. The real poster has the three women standing in like a bunker or something.
I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Greg, what time are we at? Because I'm going to clip that in at some point. Just take note of it, please.
Oh, I can hold it up for now.
Say it again.
Okay. So anyways, so the real picture has the three women that are in the movie. And so the neat thing is that I did this part in one day, and then I did the whole background, and then the women were actually photoshopped to be the clothing to be more accurate to their actually clothing. But the reason I was hired, and this is the cool part, is that they specifically wanted a woman minority engineer, and I'm half Japanese, half Caucasian, so it was really cool. So this is actually the finished.
So you built that. You were told about this job on a Monday, and this was completed by Friday?
I did it in 2 days, yeah, and dropped it off Friday morning.
But about how many hours is that? Like, are those
this is probably.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, I'm not sure exactly. It was probably about a 20 to 25 hour. Because I did it, I didn't get much sleep, obviously.
Do you feel peaceness and tranquility when you build these? Could there be a meditative component of this?
Yes and no. I mean, because so for the baby mosaic, that took me about a week to make, from idea to finished product. And people always, because I actually take these to shows and I say that I can do people's portraits. And they kind of balk at the price a little bit because it's actually $3,000. But that's a week's worth of work plus the cost of the Lego. And like I said, no one else can produce a picture like this within a week, and then maybe takes another like half week to finish it.
And you probably have
just about
the highest Lego budget of any individual in the world, I would think.
No, I'm not actually. There's a few other people in the world that do this. But it's not very many. Like, there's only officially Lego has what are called Lego Certified Professionals, which I could have been one, but I decided not to join that program because at the time I couldn't afford the licensing fee. But also, since I'm not affiliated with Lego, I actually have more freedom to be able to do what I want. And since I already worked for the company twice, I didn't really want to technically
and your current job, though, you got in 2004, or what did you
No, so I actually left Legoland in 2007.
Oh, okay.
And then pretty much the reason I actually started, I was not planning on doing it as a second career. I mean, it sounds really weird because, since I've been doing it now for 12 years, you think, oh, well, obviously she planned from the beginning to quit Legoland and do it freelance. The real reason I got tired of the corporate rigmarole, basically. I got really tired of dealing with, all the problems that any corporate job has, basically.
Corporations have problems?
So even though I liked my job in and of itself, certain people that I had to deal with and, problems that I had with the company, I was tired of dealing with. So I was just like, okay, I need to step away from this. So I kind of had like a midlife crisis almost, and I just kind of quit my job about 2 months before my 30th birthday. And so I was like, I'm just done. But then this is where the weird part comes in almost, is that, so about 4 days before my birthday happened, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was given in a dream a Lego instruction book to write called How to Build a Round Ball with Square Bricks. At the time, I didn't...
That's a dream?
Well, this is the thing. In the dream, I didn't have the title yet, but I had the entire book. And now this is a kid's book, so it's only about 30 pages. But it's like, it was the text, it was the pictures, it was how it was supposed to be laid out. I did not know how to make Lego digital instructions yet. I did not know how to do a book layout. But when you get that kind of a dream, like God sent dream, kind of like that, I was like, it's so clear.
So
I was
you
like,
suddenly dreamed a whole book.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was
Bill,
so
have
clear.
you ever dreamt a book?
No.
He's dreamt symphonies.
No.
He can.
No, I haven't.
He's like you in this music and electronics
Oh, that's
world.
cool.
Bill can instantaneously do what you do.
No,
You guys are way more brilliant than me.
The most I've ever done is dreamt a chocolate bar, and then I woke up and was disappointed because it wasn't there.
Hopefully you're not that guy that died eating his leftover in his fridge from poisoning.
Oh, God.
Bill's very critical about food science, by the way. And there was a guy that I read, a college student at Dartmouth or something like that. He woke up in the middle of the night just in this week and ate some bad leftovers and is dead. Anyways,
Oh boy, yeah.
those are really bad dreams.
If your refrigerator's not running, wait, there's a joke there somewhere.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know.
Anyways, back to you, Mariann.
Anyways, so when I had this dream, it was so clear, and I did not know how to do any of this, but it was so clear. It was one of those this is what you're doing next with your life kind of things. And so I was like, okay, I guess I have to learn how to make a Lego book. And so it took me about a year. There's a free program called Lego, or it's called L-Draw, and it's basically a combination of several programs that were made by Lego fans to make Lego instructions. And so it's a completely free program. It's done by the Lego fan community, by certain people that are, because there's a lot of Lego people that are really big computer tech guys, so they know how to write programs. And so they made this amazing program that is free online, and I actually used that to make the instructions, and I also used Adobe to make the layout in InDesign. And so I created my book, and I could not get anybody that was interested in publishing it, so I ended up having self-publish it. And so I do sell it online as an ebook.
What is the name of your book?
Like I said, it's called How to Build a Round Ball with Square Bricks.
That is the
You know
title.
what's
Okay, I
weird
wrote
about
that
that?
down.
Yeah.
You're like Werner von Braun, the guy. He's the rocket guy in Germany. He was when he was a kid, at age 16, I think he did a summer intern project with a machinist, and he was supposed to learn to do machining and stuff like that. And the machinist, the evil old German guy, machinist or classic guy, gave him a square block of steel and a file and said, "Make this round by the end of summer." That's it.
Yeah, I just kind of did it. And then right after I made the book, and it's not like I've made and sold 1 billion copies, but ironically at this point now, now that it's 12 years later, I have been approached by one of the top publishing houses that does Lego books called No Starch Press. They've been bugging me for a few years to be doing books for them. So I actually have to get my button gear and do another book. But I actually did write a second book as well called Beyond the Ball. And that was
Beyond the Ball?
Beyond the Ball. The reason I did
yeah.
was the reason I wrote a book about how to make a Lego ball is that's actually one of the very first tests as a master builder is can you make a Lego ball that rolls? Because if you're making square bricks turn into a round ball that rolls, then you kind of understand how Lego sculpture works.
I was just looking at that. I was like, I wonder if this can actually, if this can spin, roll, whatever.
Yeah, it can. So the reason that the ball is such a test is that if you understand how to make a ball, then you can start making other curved sculpture shapes like a head or an arm or an animal or something like that, because that's how you have to master that to be able to make anything out of Lego sculpture-wise. Because there's kind of 3 or 4 different tiers of types of building. Like there's mosaic building, there's sculpture building, there's also architectural building. Like at the Leonardo right now, I have on display the Cathedral of the Madeleine. That's a 5-foot-long version of the Catholic Cathedral.
What type of sculpture would that be?
That's an architectural replication. And then there's also making vehicles. That's another kind, because they kind of take different parts of the brain in a sense to figure out how to design those things. If you can make everything like I can, that's when you're a real master builder.
That's when you have a giant brain.
Yeah, because it's kind of like you have to be an architect, an artist, and an engineer all at the same time.
I would love to see if you had a dating profile, it'd be probably so awesome. I would be giving people interviews can you handle these Legos right here?
It's are you Danish at heart?
So I
actually am part Danish too.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
On my mom's side.
Wow, you didn't. No wonder you were attracted as a kid.
Yeah, I think that might be part of it.
Oh.
So, who approaches you about getting these commissions? Do you go out and, back to kind of the theme of our show today, making dreams a reality? Did somebody like the Leonardo approach you, or do you go out and?
It happens a multitude of ways.
Okay.
So my very first commission, kind of happened just because I was having a conversation with somebody at Comic-Con in San Diego. I was talking to somebody from Warner Brothers at the Lego booth, and I was telling them I used to be a Lego master model builder, and somehow he was like, let me get you in touch with our marketing person. And so they actually they talked to me because at that time they were launching the Lego Batman video game, the first one.
Whoa.
And so they're like, we would love for you to make a Lego replica of the front cover art at our launch party in New York. And I was like, wait, so if somebody will pay me to build, this was a 2-foot mosaic. In fact, let me see if I can pull up the picture real quick.
Here's a question.
So,
did you undercharge for it because it was your first time?
Unfortunately, yes. I would have charged a lot more now.
All right, yeah.
But
they got a deal then.
They did get a deal, but at the same time, it was still really cool because they actually flew me to New York. The launch party was at the Natural History Museum, which I'd never been to
awesome.
at the time.
I love that movie, by the way. Night of the Museum.
It was really amazing. And this is what the mosaic looks like.
Oh my gosh.
The bats and a couple of the other details are actually stickers, but the rest of it's all Lego. And so I built that. Obviously, I didn't build it fully on site. What I did was I built sections of it on site because it would take too long to build it on site. It took me about 2.5 weeks.
Did you took this on an airplane on carry-on, or did you, I don't mean to be stupid. Like,
no,
where do you put Legos in your bag?
Because of what it was, this one was actually broken in sections and then built back together on site. Whereas the baby mosaic, which I've taken to many, many conventions, I do actually put in my carry-on. In fact, when I was down last year, I actually went to Australia because I was the keynote at the Lego convention, Brickvention in Melbourne. This was the second time I was down there as a keynote for a Lego convention down there. And I actually put this one, and I have two others that are for the I'm a big fan of Doctor Who, so I actually have the 10th and the 11th Doctor as mosaics. And so they're all about the same size. You can see the other two right here.
Wait, is that Bill Nye the Science
No,
guy?
it's that's
the
Doctor
science
Who.
fiction guy.
So
that's Doctor Who?
So it's Matt Smith and David Tennant. And so those, because I put all three of them in my carry-on, when they scanned it through the security, they were like, we need to open your bag. And I knew that they would have to, because when you scan it, it looks like a big plastic box. Because when you have three of these, especially, it's about 4 inches tall.
Did you do this for Google? Oh my God.
I did do that for Google.
Oh
yes.
my God.
By the way, does Lego make...
That's on display at Google.
Does Lego make any bricks out of plastic explosive just for the engineers on that
There
fun?
are little tiny dynamites made out of Lego Lego.
But they're not real dynamite, are they?
Of course not.
Oh, darn it.
They're
That would be so
play
cool.
dynamite that they made for the Western
by the
series.
way, speaking of that, have you, just for fun, looked at videos of people blowing up Legos?
I have.
Yeah,
I've seen also the ones where people throw them off the balcony or something to crash down into the thing. But yeah, the Google thing. So what happens is, like I said, multitude of ways. So like that one I got hired was my first commission. But I've also have people find me through my website, modelbuildingsecrets.com, which is really out of date, and I need to update.
Let me clear it, though. Modelbuildingsecrets.com.
Modelbuildingsecrets.com.
Okay.
I also I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well under that name. And so I get approached through my website, but I also get approached sometimes at shows. Like when I was building the cathedral at the Leonardo, I was actually approached by somebody from the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco, and I ended up making a replica of that building right after I finished the Leonardo, or the cathedral at the Leonardo. That was a 6 by 4 foot replica of the building, and it's on display in their gift shop. And so yeah.
Is that like a loaner? So when you put things on display, are they on loan, or will they come home to you?
It's permanently theirs to own. So some things have been on display and loaned, but it's usually that they buy it outright. So like, in fact, one of the few times I did loan out some mosaics and some models. Unfortunately, never aired, but I actually did a TV pilot with Greg Grunberg, who's been in a ton of TV shows and everything. It was supposed to be a family comedy, and the first episode was supposed to be at a Lego contest. And so because of that, because being in California, of course, is right where Hollywood is. And so, I didn't live near Hollywood. I lived about 3 hours south, but I was involved with both the LA and the San Diego Lego clubs. And through that, me and several other people were hired for this TV show, which I can't even remember what the pilot's name was of the show, but they rented the baby mosaic. I have a 5-foot version of the Golden Gate Bridge that I built, and I actually have built a glued one that a company bought, but I also have the prototype, which I still have. And so they rented that because the producer was actually from the Bay Area, so he had it prominently displayed in the background of like all the shots that they were doing for this contest. So that one was a rental. And the funny thing was I ended up also being an extra on the show. And what was weird about that was that I got paid a lot less as an extra than I did for the rental of my models.
Oh, man.
Because as extras, they don't pay hardly anything. But I was just, since I was there the whole day anyways, I was like, sure, pay me an extra. I think it was like $100.
You wanted to get an extra?
Sure.
Yeah, all right.
So it was kind of funny, but so yeah, I've had some really interesting experiences because of my job, because I've gone to some really weird trade shows that I didn't even know existed. Like last year I went to one that was an airport trade show. So it wasn't like, it was for all the companies that supply things for the airports, like landing gear lights and like the conveyor belt that you put the suitcases on. And it was a really strange convention, but they hired me to do a 3.5-foot miniature version of an airport. And so I kind of modeled it off of the San Diego one, since that's where we were. And I just made this little miniature airport again on site. So I actually brought it in pieces and built it on site. So I've done some things where I make it and it's glued and then I deliver it. And then some things I actually build on site and then either leave it there, or sometimes I take it back if they don't want to keep it, but a lot of times they want to keep the models.
That's fantastic. So we're approaching our time on this episode. We can record a little bit past this, but I have a couple questions that I wanted to ask you. So, what do you have a finite goal? Meaning, do you have is there one goal you're really trying to achieve? Do you have a great design or something you want to do? I'm curious, what's going to be the corona of your career, or are you not really looking to have that? You want to just have a continuum,
like a Lego of God or something, or Muhammad? No, don't do that. That'd be dangerous.
No, my goal is to be more famous in the real world, because I'm really famous in the Lego community online. I'm known worldwide, which is why I was invited to Australia twice as a keynote. But I'm not really known in the regular world, even though I'm one of the top builders in the world. In fact, I was just named there's a Lego fan magazine called Blocks in England. I was just named one of the top 10 Lego builders in the world.
Fantastic.
And I
cannot believe we're sitting here with you.
I was the only woman on the list too.
Oh,
and we totally met on the internet, and that's not creepy.
Well, that's the thing. You didn't meet her at Disneyland?
Well, we met through this Disney single writers group, and we came together, and I was just like, what is this cool coat you're wearing? I had one when I was a little girl. When I was 7 years old, I had a patch neon work like that. And then you told me you were from Utah and you were with your brother. I was like, oh my gosh, I have Disney, the people that love Disney, right? In, Kaysville? Do you live in Kaysville?
No, I live in Clearfield.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just kind of one of those things. But see, that's the nice thing I like about the Lego fan community online, is that it's a very safe online community in a sense, because it's so technical to be a Lego person. You can't fake being a Lego person. You can't catfish in Lego because it's way too complicated. The terminology alone, like I said, the cheese slopes is just for the little tiny slope piece, or there's Travis brick, or there's all these inverted cheese slope, decorated elements. I mean, there's so many terminology of Lego fan base that if you don't know what that means, people would look at you like, what the heck are you talking about?
Yeah, they'll lynch you with Legos. We just get it.
But that's why it's a really safe community. But also it's funny because part of it is it's also a very expensive hobby. So there's a lot of people that are in the hobby are engineers, or they're...
okay, here's a quick question.
I literally know a rocket scientist that works for NASA that actually works on the Mars rover. And in fact, his name's Steve Pakbaz, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. He was actually one of the very first Lego Ideas sets was a Mars rover, and he was the designer. And he's a friend of mine. And so, but the neat thing with the online community, I have friends in Europe, in Asia, in Australia that I've met online. Some of them I have met in person over the years through going to Lego conventions, because I go to about 8 to 10 Lego conventions all over the country. But some of them, like, I'll have known them for like 10 years and not met them until like just now, kind of thing. Because like I had a friend that I literally just met when I was in San Francisco for the California Academy of Sciences that I had known for over a decade, but we had never met in person because he's an Australian that lives in England. But he's a Lego guy, and he does the same thing I do where we build Lego models. And that's how we got to know each other. We've Skyped before, but we'd never talked in person.
I think that's so fascinating. Part of my goal in hosting Public Emily is I wanted to talk about friendship networks and how friends are made because it's so unique. It's not... I feel like it's something that we can control. It's not completely manufactured yet. It's not something that we're just being forced to do, that we're really allowed with the online presence to make friends as we see fit. And I think that you can really nurture and develop. I mean, it was unique to me to watch you and was it Katie, the leader of Disneyland single writers?
Oh, you mean Heather?
Heather.
Yeah.
I thought that was so fascinating to see you two interact together, and
again we met through that group too, because we I met her, but apparently she had met me at a Lego convention in Pasadena before. I didn't remember because I meet so many people. I've met hundreds and hundreds of people, actually even thousands of people at these shows, and so I couldn't remember that. But of course, me being a short Asian woman, I'm pretty distinctive in the Lego community because most Lego people are guys in their 40s, white guys in their 40s, just because that's just the demographic that the way it works out. It sounds weird, but so there's not that many that are minorities or that are women even now, because even though there's starting to be more of a female presence, it's about 5% women to 95% guys in the conventions that aren't the significant other.
That's the Lego gap, huh?
It is a little bit. I'm trying to break
gap?
that though. That's kind of why my company name is Model Building Secrets, is because they're not secrets. I don't think they should be secrets. I don't think that learning how to build and create, because some people, when you ask them how they built something, they're like, oh, well, I can't tell you that because then you'll steal my ideas and you'll create the same thing. Well, first of all, why would you create the exact same model? You wouldn't. But there's all these really cool techniques that, I wish I'd known 20 years ago. And some of it, they couldn't even be done 20 years ago because the parts didn't exist. Like the cheese slope, this angled piece literally didn't exist 20 years ago. And it's available now. And Lego keeps making more and new pieces. In fact, it's funny because I get parents all the time that complain, why doesn't Legos just make the ones like when we were kids? Well, they still do. They're called the Creator line, but they also make everything else that's cool and added to it that didn't exist before.
I want to see them make silicone rubber Legos so we can make clothing out of Legos. So that would just be wonderful.
Well, like I said, it's tricky to do clothing out of Legos, but I have seen it done.
If it's really flexible stuff, though, it might make it
it might,
easier.
But it wouldn't be that comfortable.
Well, okay.
So in an effort to wrap up here, because I'm sure the studio has stuff going on and I would love this interview to keep going, but I know that I'm going to have you back.
Come back.
Exactly. I'm going to have you back. I want to take the time to say thank you. I'm not terribly great at interviewing, but like you have given me such momentum. Like, I want to thank you as a woman. I want to thank you for being an inspiration to me. Like just in the little time I had with you at Disneyland and the time that I had with you here. I mean, you really touched my life. You made me feel like I can still carry on with the ambitions that I have as a person. And, I really want to thank you for your time. And I always hate this. I don't want to wrap up like on a bad, quick Sundance note. Like I've been watching all these movies at Sundance this week as it's Sundance time. And I mean, the buildup is great. It's great. It's great. You have great content. And then suddenly the movie ends. But,
that's kind of like the conventions too that I go to. Because like, they spend 2 or 3 days sometimes to set up these fantastic creations, and then we have it open to the public for 2 days, and then it's done.
I know.
And it's like, you get this kind of like, your emotions all go down.
Oh, I know.
Really, really sharp.
I do that too. I mean, that happens to me a lot. Like I'm a very emotionally connected person, and I'm like, But wait, why is the curtain dropping? Like, why are the gates to Disneyland closing?
No.
Anyways, I wanted to give Bill an opportunity to end the show today because really, Bill, it's because of you that I'm here today. Bill, even though Bill's a boy, Bill is extremely, he endorses me as not only a woman, but a friend. And he has seen... apparently he thinks I'm interesting, and he thinks that I need to film this show. And I'm looking forward to some feedback from this show when our viewers watch this. And Bill, I'm going to let you wrap up the show because
thank you
we're
very
here
much
because of you.
Thank you very much for coming by. And this wonderful artwork here, this just absolutely mind-boggling to do that. But you could do this even in 3 dimensions. I'm also especially appreciative of this because it covers up the salsa stain on my shirt. And
Wait, you have salsa? No, just kidding.
Okay, I guess we're...
Yeah, and I'll also take a minute to thank Man vs. Music for allowing us to record in the studio. Mike and Greg, you guys have been great to work with. I know I'm a pain in the ass.
We've always asked, though, which one's going to win, man or music?
All right, well, I think that's a wrap.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.